Hi everyone, so I'm here today to discuss reading speeds and subvocalizing with you. Now, loads of people often comment on Big Readers videos how they wish they could read more, and so I started looking into my own reading speed and trying to work out how fast I read, and found out that I actually subvocalize a lot of the time. Now, if you're not sure what this is, when you're reading a book inside your head, basically, do you read all the words in your head? Say every single word. If you do, that is subvocalizing, and it slows down your reading speed considerably. Now, when I discovered this, I straight away tried to look into tips as to how you can stop doing this, because I want to read more. I don't get through anywhere near the amount of books I need to get through in my lifetime. And so I thought it'd be really helpful to share these tips with you, and also I'm just curious as to whether you subvocalize. I think it's a really interesting topic, and I'd love to know how many big readers actually do it and just spend a lot of their time reading instead of actually being quick readers. So for me personally, I don't always subvocalize. The times when I do are when I've just picked up a book and it's either I've just started it and I feel that I need to go slower to get a feeling of what's going on, or maybe I'm not very into the story, and so again I struggle to sort of go at any real speed because I'm constantly making sure that I'm taking it all in. But then other times I won't subvocalize, and this can sometimes be a conscious decision but not always. For example, sometimes I might get that into the book, like for example I was reading The Reptile Room the other night in bed and I read it from start to finish, and I noticed about halfway through that I definitely wasn't actually subvocalizing anymore. It was a case of I was that into the story that the words no longer mattered, and it was more about what was actually being pictured in my head, like I was imagining it all, and I no longer became aware of the words. Other times I've made a conscious effort to try and not subvocalize. So for example, I will be reading along and I will be deliberately trying to not focus on taking in every single word, and rather just not skim reading, but looking over the words and just letting my eyes look at them without saying them, trying to read quicker, if you will. And so this leads me on to tips. I found one of the ways that I am able to overcome this somewhat is to listen to music while reading. Now, I can't listen to sort of really popular stuff that I absolutely love, because then I found that I'm just singing along the words and I've read an entire page and not taken in a single word of it. But I do listen to music with words while reading, and to focus on that a little bit just stops me actually subvocalizing every single word that's in the book, and instead I start getting more of a flow going on, and that works really well. Some people read classical music, but if you're doing that you might find that you're still subvocalizing because there's no other words to actually distract you from the words in the book. Now, some people might try and read to maybe some background noise, like sit in a cafe, so there's talking going on around them that will distract them from the words, and so you won't be thinking about saying every single word in your head. That might work for you, or with the TV on. I personally can't read to other people talking. It distracts me to anything. If I do it, my reading speed drops ridiculously. As you may realise, I do a lot of my reading on my Kindle, and the reading speed will just keep going slower and slower and slower, and it really puts me off to the point where I rarely read in public anymore, because I really get disheartened as much as anything, seeing the reading time just get longer and longer and longer, even though I'm actually progressing through the book. Another tip for you is to just actually focus on trying to look over the lines and deliberately go faster than what you're able to say the words. Just say every other few words in your head. So you might skip half the sentence in terms of actually saying it. You might like allow yourself to say every fourth word in your head or something like that. I have tried that and it did work for me, but I found it quite difficult to train my brain that way, because that is essentially what you're doing. To stop yourself from subvocalizing, you are training your brain, because subvocalization comes from a reading lesson that we learned as children. When you first start learning to read, you read out loud, so you're saying every single word. And when you start learning to read inside your head, you are just going to continue on in that way. So you are saying every single word from a very young age, and so that is a habit that your brain has had for, in my case, 25 plus years. and trying to get your brain past that basically requires training. And so the biggest tip I can give you is just practice, practice, practice. The more you read, the more you will find yourself dropping the subvocalizing. Not completely in some cases. It depends how hard a book you're reading as well. I mean, if you're reading a really dense classic, you don't want to be flying through it. You need to take in every word. But if you're just reading, for example, a light contemporary, there should be no reason why you shouldn't be able to train yourself quite quickly to just let the words flow at speed through your head. Another thing that I found really helped me, and this one will sound really strange, but it's audiobooks. Because I started listening to audiobooks last year, I've noticed that I've definitely been able to increase my reading speed. Because I started off with the reading speed really slowly. I was listening to them at 1 times or 1.25 times. And now I'm at the point where most audiobooks I can listen to them at 2 times the speed. And that's because I don't need to focus on every single word that is said. I can just focus on the general idea of what's happening. Now, don't mistake this for skimming. It is nothing like skimming. But by doing this, your brain is able to take in the words without actually saying every single word in your head as you hear it. And I've found this has really, really helped me. So those are my main tips on how I am slowly overcoming subvocalizing. Do you subvocalize? I'd be really interested to hear if you do, especially if you are a prolific reader. Someone who reads a lot of books. I've always wondered, do you just spend all of your life reading, every single spare moment? Or are you just a really, really quick reader? Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more videos from me, and I upload videos every Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!